Hey, good evening, Kings. Thanks for joining us from all coasts, West Coast, East Coast, and Aaron just mentioned the Mid Coast. Your boys from Chicagoland. Welcome to the next edition of the Heartstorm, where we talk all things King related, and we also talk about key issues and anything that shows up. Um, Before we get started, I wanted to mention to everybody that being part of the school page, you have access to the PDF for the Young Kings Blueprint. And if you guys are anything like me, having a hard copy is always awesome. This is on sale on Amazon for 20 bucks. I like the paper edition because it's more tangible, but you guys also have access to it on the school page. And if you guys do happen to read it, if you could leave an Amazon review, that'd be so great. We're spreading the word, we're bringing people together with the book, and this is one of the resources that we have. So if you don't have a copy, strongly suggest you get one. And welcome everybody to the call. How's everyone doing today?
Excellent.
Let's go. We're good. We're good. How are you guys?
Doing great. We got you up, Diego.
Yes, yes, sure. Almost on.
Yeah, and guys, we have a really interesting topic today because at YKU, we address all things, all issues that we're going through, and we provide possibilities and solutions. And the topic that I really wanted to discuss today, to hear from you guys, is leadership. And specifically in leadership, having your own training practice. So I wanted to open up the floor first to see if what everyone thinks about that. And before I open up the floor, I want to define training really quick, just so that we're all on the same page. So, training is preparation for life, and training is voluntarily taking the time to develop yourself. And the book, the YKU Blueprint, it provides a lot of practical examples and action steps of different modalities that make up your training. So, I'm curious to hear from you guys. What's part of your personal training practice?
That was an exceptional question. I love this topic of discussion when it comes to leadership. And I'm curious if we can get a clear picture for everybody here. So that way I'm not making assumptions. So from what I'm hearing, what you're saying is that as a king, you're the king of your own self, first and foremost. You're the leader in your own life. Um, And instead of using the words you, I am the leader in my own life. I am the leader of my own self. Each of us is. We're all kings. Um, and that's a J. Cole quote. And from Fire Squad, if you guys are curious, great song. So the question the thing that I'm hearing from you guys is that as your own leader in your own life, you tend to almost have your own path that you blaze like a trailblazer, and you come up with your own training. Is that what I'm hearing? And is that the topic of discussion? Okay,
Correct. And how it
awesome.
pertains to leadership.
That's fire. I will dive into that. The work that I do, and kind of, I'll call it my legacy right now, my legacy work, my signature program. I've created what's called a Lion Life Operating System, which stands for Life Integration Operating Network. So how I do that in training is I'm trying to figure out how to own my time instead of letting my time own me. And I have 9 P's that I've decided on. They're kind of like pillars that I go through in each, not every single day, but it's how I can get a clear picture. So I guess to answer your question, the training that I do is training my mind to see my life vision every day. So that's one form of training that I do. I don't know if that answers your question. I just started training communication in myself, and that's another piece to my legacy that I'm remembering. So I'm curious what you guys have to yeah, what's coming up for you guys?
Well, first and foremost, meditation and visualization, that's a great training technique because you're visualizing your legacy. So that's perfect. That's a great strategy. That's a great practice.
Thank you.
Else, I'll come back around and I'm curious to hear from Ken, Diego, Sean. What are some practices that you encompass in your training?
Yeah, I think I don't know, most of my life is my business at the moment, but even outside of the business, of real estate, I've been finding ways to use leadership in ways of like standing up for myself, like whether it's within my professional career. I had to like negotiate some percentages today, and it's like it's hard to do that with people I respect within my office, and like I don't know, it's just odd standing up between myself and what I want in my life. And I love the company; they provided so much for me. It's hard to put a dollar value on that, but I also need to eat. Um, so I don't know, like standing up for that. Leadership. I've been learning to speak with more, I don't know, authority, like specifically with clients. Like, I don't know, it's like sometimes I come up on the age rejection. Like, what is this kid doing in my house? Like, I don't know. I can put on the polo and I can, dress nice and put on the cool suit. But I don't know. I think if you don't speak with the confidence behind what you're, I don't know, specifically in a business venture, trying to sell someone or relay information to, you're not going to get your point across. So yeah, learning to speak with confidence, learning to negotiate on my behalf, learning to stand up for myself are all things I've been kind of experiencing, learning, living the last month or so. But constant development, script practice in my business, essential. Yeah.
Well, that's a really cool practice too, Diego, because, even though you are a youngster, it's like if we know what we're doing and we know what we're sharing, what I always like to say is we work through people's considerations and then what do they have? A simple decision to make. It's a yes or a no. So this is really good training for you, I see, because you're going to learn how to help people work through their considerations with what you offer. And that is a huge part of our leadership, being able to speak up when things need to be said and not keeping ourselves quiet. That's one of the most, actually, probably to me, one of the top three leadership qualities. A leader knows when to speak and knows when to speak for themselves and knows when to speak for their team and other people too. That's such a huge leadership skill for sure, man. And it's a huge training. We can practice it all day long. We go to the gas station, we go eat, we go here. Being able to communicate is cornerstone, man. It's awesome. Hmm. Good for you. I I think what you mentioned too about negotiations, what shows up for me in that is if training is preparation for life, that could be studying the house that you're trying to sell, knowing the people who you're selling to, and like really having the upper hand, if you will. And to Sean's point, like that preparation, it allows you to communicate and listen in a way where you can neutralize their considerations so then they have a simple yes or no to make. And that's the bread and butter of training, gang. It's getting to know yourself really well. And one of the practices that I have in my training is strengthening my weaknesses, mentally, emotionally, and physically. That's usually my go-to when I'm training because when I strengthen my weaknesses, it strengthens everything. And I think negotiation is a huge, it's a skill that showcases that you really understand what you're doing and you are the authority in that.
Strong words. I appreciate it. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, yeah. And so to answer my initial question too, one of my training practices is in the rising, I always do qigong and I take a walk or a bike ride. And it's usually right around when the sun is rising. So I take nice and easy and I listen to the birds and I like to get outside, get the fresh air. And then with the qigong, Aaron, speaking of your possibility of like meditation, what you do with your training, I like doing the qigong in the morning because it helps me flow and really step into my creativity. And it also helps me clear up any muck that shows up for me in the rising. Because most mornings, one thing or another shows up, and I like to kind of handle that before the day starts. So mine is Qigong and also taking a bike ride or walking in the rising.
That's exceptional. So, besides physical training, what other realms of training do we deem as important?
What prepares you for your life?
If I can take the floor for a second, I want to just piggyback off of basically what we were just saying and kind of segue into I was going to mention, and also Aaron kind of touched on it, the mental training aspect of it. Like we're basically touching on meditation. That would be the most generic thing that I feel that I've been working on. And everybody always talks about how the longer you do it for, the deeper the practice, the more insight you get. I can say that I started, this was back around like, and I apologize for the background noise. Um,
You're good. We can hear
I
you loud and
had
clear.
I had begun my practice right around COVID time. And, I think we all start in a place where we have no idea what we're doing. I locked myself in a closet because it was the darkest place I had. I had a little
Nice.
mat. At 5 in the morning, usually, I tried to always prioritize getting the early morning silent, retreat aspect of it. I didn't feel like I was getting too many results, but with consistent practice over the years, I've definitely noticed I'm able to work more synergistically with my brain. I don't feel like I'm being controlled like most people are. I feel like I can finally like work in sync with it, and it's almost like you just mentioned, like a negotiation. It's you don't people say you control your brain. I think it's kind of like a balance. You give and take because sometimes you get exhausted too if you're always in the cockpit driving.
Mhm.
Sometimes you got to just go with the flow. And that's where like the Tai Chi Qigong practice, that's a wonderful way that I found to get a lot of benefit just because it coordinates the breath with the movement and the silent of the meditation. It just everything comes together and it's something that you can feel internally and at the same time kind of like sync up all these systems in your body.
Mm. Kenna, what have you noticed about consistently practicing your meditation? What have you noticed and how has it contributed to your leadership? Do you have any tangible examples or any stories to share?
So actually just recently I purchased this new product that I've been kind of experimenting with. It's called a Mendy. And this is like the deepest I felt I've ever like the greatest strides in terms of like improving my meditation practice I've gotten recently because I can notice the the way I'm able to focus, the way I'm able to really just drive intentional focus into what I choose has been just remarkable. Like I can't explain it to you exactly, but it's just I notice that my brain is just working so much better overall. And this is like we're talking in a span of maybe 2 weeks. But like I said, I'm also building on this practice that I've had for a long, long time. And obviously it
Woo!
shows up in
I'm gonna
in
celebrate that. Good work.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
It
that's
shows
awesome.
up in leadership because I mean, like we mentioned before, how I think is how I show up for myself. How I show up for myself and represent myself is how I show up for other people, how I represent other people. When it does require me to step in, like you said before, to speak for somebody, like some not that people can't be independent and speak for themselves, but sometimes we can advocate for others when they need a hand.
Mm.
And, if we show up as the best version of ourselves, we can create the best results for those people. I'm very result focused. Like, I want the best for whoever it is that I'm serving, whether that's my community, my clients, the people I work with, whatever the case may be. I always want to make sure that the result is the best that I can offer.
Starts with that brain, huh? And it's interesting because if
That's
we
powerful, Ken. By the way,
yeah,
thank you. Thanks
that's
for your
good
share.
stuff, man. Yeah. Well, and like what you're tapping into is the source, right? It's like if you think about manifestation, it's thoughts, feelings, and actions. So consciously being aware of your patterns and what you're thinking and how you're processing things, I mean, that's so clutch because then you can really understand how it moves down to the heart space, moves down to the guts, and you can really consciously create things more effectively and efficiently. I love that. Um, and how fitting for YKU because of all the mental health that we focus on with the shadow work, with with the physical work, the pro work, the social work. It's all comes back to that, you know. Very cool, gang. What about anybody else?
That's
What's another
incredible.
practice? We
Yeah,
got meditation, we got negotiation, we got getting ready for our clients as part of our training practice. We have movement, getting outside. What about you, Sean? What practices show up for you? One of the main practices that I like for training is just getting outside. That's really important for me. It really helps me like synchronize my energy with like my possibility and like how I want to show up. And it could really just be as simple as like going outside and standing on the grass for like literally 30 seconds and like stretching out for a second or taking a long walk in nature. That's been something that I've really been dialing in for a really long time, and that's been really showing up for me a lot lately. Is making sure I get outside, because again, it helps me consolidate all the energies that are mine, that aren't mine, and really helps me understand how I want to show up in any situation that I'm in. So that's one of the main things that I've been really zoning in on.
which is what? Which is walking in nature, Sean?
Yeah, syncing with nature, being in nature.
Syncing with nature. I like that language.
Well, yeah, because it's like we live around all this concrete, these Wi-Fi signals, these strange programs, whether we know it or not. And our energies are very sensitive. That's why a lot of the times we do need to check ourselves constantly because we may be living someone else's fantasy or their dream that sounded nice to us, but it's really not ours, and that's okay. But that's why clearing the runway is so key and getting outside in the nature where there's no English, there's no Spanish, there's no nothing. There's just the birds chirping, the sun shining, the ground vibrating, the mountains or the trees doing their thing. That really, really helps me center myself. And that, like you're saying, Aaron, syncing to nature so that I know how I want to show up, which is more in balance. I don't want to show up erratically. I don't want to show up as some of these weird programs that we like to perpetuate in this realm. So that's really important for me. How would you say that shows up in your leadership, being able to get that time and like syncing with nature and aligning and grounding? Well, what we do with people, because we work so closely with their health, a lot of the times things really show up and it can be chaotic, it can be stressful. Tears can come down. So if I'm focused and balanced, I can be that energy so that when people that I'm working with are going through it, especially, they have a balance point. They have a tuning fork to tune back to, so they can have their moment and they can do what they need to do, but at the end of the day, reminding them, like cracking the door open in a dark room for them so they can see how to get back out of what they've fallen into in that moment. Is that like Ken's closet when he's in there meditating? That dark room? Yeah, that was a great visual too, man. That was awesome. Love that. Oh man, well, that's really cool. And I find that like the connection that I'm making right now is hearing about how we train and we prepare for our life helps us step into our leadership, whether it's studying and preparing for our clients to sell them a house, whether it's meditation and visualization, whether it's in the closet, meditating in the rising, qigong, getting outside. These are all different practices that really help us step into our leadership. And as men, I think that that visual of stepping into it, that's really important because as men, we are men of action or inaction for that matter. But I find that that visual is very powerful for men, especially nowadays. And which brings me to my second question that's showing up for me for you guys. And if there's any other practices that show up, please share them too, guys, because we wanna bless the kings with all these different practices, and you guys have gems and wisdom to share. But my my next question that I really wanted to get to, what's showing up is in your leadership, how do you overcome adversity? And do you guys have any examples of overcoming adversity recently?
Yeah, I definitely got one. So I'm on this story. So I'll tell you guys a story where, lately I've been deciding to um, discontinue my use of really all foreign substances in my body other than regular real food and water. And I've been noticing that not eating meat has been as much has been allowing me to tap into my more of my creative potential. It's also showing me that God, I'm hungry. Like right before this call, dude, I was like eating, I was like trying to figure out like what to eat, and I was so pissed, bro. It got me so pissed. I got off this call with a group, and I was really frustrated with my inability to communicate what I felt, and then frustrated with other things, and that just kept perpetuating. So I did my best to ground myself before this call, and overcoming in regards to overcoming adversity as a leader. I think really ultimately the only thing we're ever overcoming is ourselves. Anything that we believe might be external is not really that's not really the case. It's really some problem with you and whatever you believe is holding you back, I think. So I know there's a lot of emotions that came up for me today that showed themselves to me in the 3D realm, and I'm not excited honestly to go through them. Like I got to do it. I got to do what I got to do, but I guess I'm like I guess I'm realizing that there's never it's never all the way up like this road looks like waves or like loops. I like the term like looping up, so you like loop up and then you lose momentum a little bit and then pit and then you bottom out wherever the hell decide to bottom out, and then you gain momentum again and you loop up again. So that's my idea in regards to adversity. Hopefully, the story and visuals are helpful. That's how I choose to communicate.
You're actually expressing how I feel like we actually move here in this realm. There's no straight lines here, guys. Even if you zoom in on a line, there's no such thing as a straight line. Everything spirals. But that's why a lot of times things cycle back to us because we're moving forward, but it's almost like we're moving out of a labyrinth in a way. We keep cycling back, but we go a little bit farther forward back, a little bit farther forward back. So once we actually hit up, we realize that we were actually going down, even though we thought that we were going up. Right.
I'll
So
add on to that. There's no straight lines except for in a matrix. That's the last thing I'll say on the straight line.
Hmm. So, what would you say is something that you do to overcome adversity and all that? I'm not sure I heard anything. If someone heard something, I didn't, but
Sure,
yeah,
sure,
yeah.
sure. What is an actionable step or behavior that I do to
Or
overcome
just
adversity?
yeah, I mean, I heard that you're working through some emotional things on that call earlier and like overcoming that, and you're sharing it in a pretty chill way. You're not like freaking out. And you're not expressing in that way. So I could see that that's overcome adversity is like communicating about it in a productive manner.
Thank you. Yeah, what are things that I do? I tend to connect with people that I trust, that I can share everything with.
Mhm.
Probably
Love
one of the biggest things, to be
that.
honest. Trust has been coming up a lot for me lately. I've been noticing that uh, either trusting myself or trusting my environment or people or things around me, it's like, it feels like when you don't feel safe in your own body ever, it can feel like there's always something bad that's just about to happen. But that's just how it can feel. It doesn't mean it's actually true. So I guess I'll give you a tangible example. Like it feels like you're out at night. It feels like you're out and it's hard to see. Or maybe if even if you do see something, it feels like you don't have eyes in the back of your head, and it feels like there's somebody chasing you always.
Hmm.
That's a visual. Um, but yeah, I guess what do I do? So yeah, I just share and I think connection. God damn, we're coming back to what we started with. I think is connection with three things: with other people, specifically people that you can tell everything to, connection with yourself, and then connection with something bigger, nature, God, your creator, whatever you want to call it. But I think the actual act of getting out around things that were not created by man but created by great spirit. I think that's vitally important because the trees, the birds, like you said, Sean, were created by God. And it's so fucking important that we get out of our own mind. We tend to like get to overthinking, and sometimes there's like just all this symbolism. Words are symbols. Like all this is symbols. And we get so tied up in our minds that we forget to live.
Hmm. Yeah, that's powerful. And what I'm hearing in that is your action at least is perspective. And that's actually something that I do.
Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, I like hiking a mountain, which is
Yeah.
another metaphor. That's what I
Yeah,
fucking love to do to ground myself. Yes.
it's cool with that perspective, whether it's walking in nature or talking to someone, or personally what I do is I check in with myself. And then if I can't if it's something I can't like figure out on my own, then I'll talk to the people that you were talking about, people who I can trust and get a perspective from. And perspective is huge because I notice that in adversity, I tend to get emotionally charged and I get like really revved up. And so when I talk about things and I get perspectives from myself and people who I trust, it takes away some of that emotional charge. And then I work with my emotions as a guide, a compass, as I start to fact find and gather facts. And then I'm able to communicate clearly to really overcome the situation, whether it's with myself or with other people. So that's something that I like to do to overcome adversity.
Exceptional.
Yeah. And Aaron, I'm curious too when you mentioned every time we're going through something, it's a reflection of us. I've been challenging that notion because there's I think to a certain extent what you're saying like is true, and I think I acknowledge that because we are the masters of our own domain and how we respond to things. But then there's like this other thing that tells me is like there's certain problems in the world that I am not contributing to. And when I see that out in the world and it pisses me off, like I don't think that that's a learning for me. Like I find that to be more of like a reminder of my boundaries.
Mm.
So I don't think everything is for me personally.
I see you. Yeah,
And
I
I see what
absolutely
you're
do.
saying too. I absolutely see what you're saying too. So I just wanted to share that because I've been thinking about that lately. I'm happy you brought that up.
Yeah, thanks for that. Would you mind going into an example of something? A
Yeah.
worldly issue, if you will?
Oh yeah, dude. Well, I'll share a personal example.
Yeah,
I'll
thanks.
bring it back home. So right now, a few members in my family, they're not playing nice with each other. And based on how they've been acting, it's landed in my lap to mediate the situation. And as I'm helping these two family members, there's a lot of thrashing. There's a lot of thrashing, and they're making me wrong,
Mm.
and they're saying, "Oh, like you're trying to control me, you're trying to manipulate me." And what I keep having to remind them is that um, you guys landed in my lap. You guys almost got arrested in my hometown that you showed up to unannounced, and you guys almost got arrested, and I had to talk to the police. And you guys are kind of on my watch right now because you guys can't play nice. And you guys agreed to be civil. And so
Mm.
so that like and they're like, oh well, you're trying to control me. I'm like, no, no, I'm not. I'm trying to help you because you guys are
Mm.
out of control. And like I've had to remind them like 17 times over the past week. That and they keep trying to thrash at me and say, no, this is you and you. And it's like, no, this is not me. This is
Mm.
you. And I'm trying to help you.
So I'm hearing the projection from them onto you, and to your point, that's an breaking of the, I don't want to call it a rule, like what like the whole point of what I was saying is that we're each kind of transcending another version of our smaller self.
Mm.
And what you're sharing is that sometimes what you're saying is fucking valuable, especially for men like myself, who is really difficult to come up with boundaries. Boundaries has been a really, really, really challenging lesson for me. So what I'm hearing and what I like to say is, what's yours is yours, what's mine is mine. What's yours is yours, what's mine is mine. And that's one of my favorite affirmations or incantations or whatever you want to call it, because a lot of times it's so easy, if you're sensitive, especially, to uh, um, combine your energetic field with somebody, or even, it doesn't have to be somebody. It could be a it could be a political issue or whatever the hell it is, and it's outside of you and it's outside of your control and all that. But so it's sometimes it's easy for us to get our attention drawn to something. Attention usually follows energy and vice versa. So if something is bringing something out and capturing our attention, there's a reason. But that's another topic of conversation. I love that. Boundaries are so vital,
Hmm.
and that's a
Well,
training in and of itself.
oh yeah.
Mental boundaries, physical boundaries, mental, emotional, of course, all those things.
When we don't set firm boundaries and we're not clear on them, we become a doormat. There's no other way to put it. Like maybe it won't be
Mhm.
happening now, maybe not tomorrow, but when we don't set firm boundaries, we will be a doormat. And no one
Yeah.
wants to be a doormat. I don't want to be a doormat. And that is such an important thing for women too, but especially men. With our presence and our masculine energy, we do set firm boundaries. We do tell people when things aren't, and other women do too, but we need to tell people as almost like enforcers, like when things are not okay and when they are okay. And there needs to be consequences for those things too. So as men, we have to set firm boundaries or we become a doormat. And what does that do for ourselves, our friends, our family, our community, and our reality? Well, we get the clown show that we have today, guys. Sloppy or non-existent boundaries creates a very
Uh,
sloppy form and function in reality. It's just very simple. That's why we really have to stand tall and be firm, even when people don't like it. But when we know in our heart of hearts that this is what needs to be done, we have to stand firm. And that's a leadership skill that's very hard to hone in on because it takes being very uncomfortable in a lot of situations, a lot of swords, a lot of backbiting.
mm,
It don't matter. We keep moving. They fall off
mhm.
the cape. So I'm hearing boundaries as a way to overcome adversity too. Um, what about you, Ken, Diego, Sean? Are there any things that you that show up for you? Any stories of overcoming adversity and any practices that help you overcome adversity, or anything of that nature for you three?
My biggest thing is finding clarity, and you touched upon it. Like it's out of nowhere for somebody to just show up and bring you a problem. And I find myself at work a lot of times getting frustrated because, you want to fix the problem. And sometimes, as men especially, we just immediately want to go into like fix. And it's like you can't really fix until you have a framework of what it is you're going to do. And you don't know what you're going to do until you know what the problem is in the first place. And maybe you know what the problem is, but especially me working with the team, I feel a lot of times if the clarity is not there and set up from the get-go, things can get lost in translation and people go their own way. And all of a sudden, like one solution turns into six, and we're all back at each other's throats because we're like, well, my way's better. So it's definitely crucial to start with what's going on, what do we have as resources to work with, and what are the steps we're going to take, hopefully all together, coordinatedly, um, to try to resolve this in the best, most efficient way possible too. Because some people they like just dicking around with the problem, and that's not getting anywhere either.
Mm. So would you consider clarity kind of like perspective too? Like, or rather getting perspective gives you clarity?
I would say backwards. I would say clarity gives me perspective, because at least looking at it from my own point of view, if we can clearly define like everything that needs to be clearly defined, then it just comes down to each person's individual experience of how to tackle that issue. And I think that's where I would find the perspective working its way in there, because depending on a person's experience, you could look at a solution to a problem in a completely different way than someone else. And sometimes you can even hybridize those solutions and work with something and make something completely new, and that's where innovation comes from ultimately,
Mm.
brainstorming and just working with people's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that you're touching on something really important, especially when we're working in teams, is for clarity's sake and perspective's sakes, I've recognized that when I'm working with teams or even in this setting, I want to hear from everybody individually and collectively. And I've noticed that a lot of the times in those dynamics, people want to be acknowledged and heard. And that a lot of the times gives people that permission to actually come in and be of assistance. And I find that to be a very helpful tool to hear from everybody, get perspective, and start to paint the picture. Because man, it's like the telephone game sometimes. Like everyone's looking at the same thing, and one person sees one thing, another person sees another thing, and it's like it's so fascinating to me because of the filters going back to the brain. It's so interesting to me how people have different filters in their psyche and in their being. It's so fascinating to me. Thanks for sharing, Ken. Um, what about you, Diego? Sean, what are some things that help you overcome adversity, or if you have any stories or examples, love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, I think adversity specifically, cool word. I think that most adversity comes externally from like other people or other actions, like whether it's in your control or not. It's important for you to realize like, A, is this problem in my control? Well, okay, so the whole reason I think that they come only externally is because I think people should take responsibility for every action that they're doing in their lives. Where you're at in your life is just your result of what you've been doing for the last 5, 10 years, 20, whatever, however many years. And you got here. So any adversity people explain in their lives, uh, or just experience, I mean, I think is primarily external. So A, you have to recognize, is this in my control or not? Like, what can I do about this realistically? And B, if it is something you can do something about, like, like whether it's someone close to you, or someone like a client, that's a professional relationship. I think it's important to acknowledge, like, um, A, it's everybody's first time living life. We're all figuring out how to interact with each other and how to figure out whatever topic at hand you're experiencing adversity with. And B, I don't know, how can I best address this to make it a win-win for both of us? Um, People have places to be, people's time is valuable. And I don't know, I think as far as actionable steps, I like to think I'm solid at like in the moment, taking a bird's eye view, like a step back, like, okay, whoa, like what am I coming off as? What am I communicating to this person that prompts them to, I don't know, either like present you with X adversity. I don't know. I think as far as a specific example, um, as we mentioned earlier in the call, just like speaking with authority and adversity that I experienced, like specifically within real estate. Um, I don't know, it was probably less than a week ago. I'm touring homes out in Tucson here, and new built luxury homes. Contractor is still out there doing his work, and me and my one of my other younger, not coworkers, because realtors are 1099, they're their own boss kind of. But we pull up to this site sale, and we're touring homes, and I see this contractor outside. You know, old ag dude, like respectful. Yeah, I don't know. But he just had a bad mood on his face. This kid was mad at the world, and he sees these two handsome young realtors walk up to the door, and I'm like, "Excuse me, sir. Like, hey, I'm here to tour this property. Like, can you please let me in?" And he hits us with, he was like, "Hey, like, what are you two doing here? Like, you guys brothers or something?" I was like, "No, sir. Excuse me. I'm a licensed realtor, and I'm here to tour this home, please." And just experiencing this pushback and really realizing what tone am I giving off. Like, is this person coming from a place of jealousy or insatisfaction with their own life. I think we mentioned earlier that like any sort of bad mouth or I don't know, just adversity is a good word that you experience is really a reflection of other people's character. I don't know how else to say it. It's everybody's first time living life, and it's time to you have to know when to have sympathy for people. Like, oh, you're still learning, you're still figuring out how to communicate. Maybe you had a bad environment, bad role models, but also, a boundaries, stand your ground. Hey, I'm the shit. You're not. I'm sorry. I don't know. That's kind of how I'd like to explain it. Be responsible for your actions, understand where other people are coming from, address accordingly.
What really stands out about that is when you're in a situation, you kind of step back and you're like, what is in my control right now? I think that that's so, I mean, that's so freeing, I bet. Because, and also empowering, because it's like, oh, wait, I can do something about this. Or like, you know what, this is out of my control. So why am I even going to give this energy? That's potent, brother. That's really potent. I got to take that note down right there. Mm. Good share, man. Good share. Anybody have thoughts on that? Aaron, Ken, Sean, anything showing up for you in Diego's share? Something that's showing up for me was, you know, a lot of the times when adversity shows up, it's a really hard push. Like if I could think of an example, it'd be like Mike Tyson like trying to punch like a 15-year-old guy or something. Like there's all this force behind adversity. And something that really helps me deal with adversity a lot of the time is to step back. So I could step into the punch and I could get wrecked. Or I could just simply take like a step back and like assess the situation. And a really good example of that happened in my life was some years ago. I was traveling to Asia, and on the tail end of my trip, it was a really long day. We missed this dinner. I missed this dinner that I was supposed to be with at a friend, like across the hall. And so, long story short, you know, we missed the window with our friend, and I'm sitting with one of my good friends in a little cafe in our hotel, and all of a sudden, a legitimate terrorist attack broke out exactly where we were supposed to be to have dinner that night. Some dude came into the casino with like a machine gun and started shooting people. He lit a fire. I think like five, six, 7 dozen people died that night. And if and the reason why I bring that up is because it was like my example of taking a step back. Like I was hard on myself. Oh, I should have made it to dinner, but I was like, I'm really tired. I'm just gonna step back. And if I hadn't done that, I would have been in ground zero of a legitimate like terrorist attack, and things would have been very differently. So a lot of the times when hard times show up, sometimes people we want to strike back. Um, and a lot of the times we can miss the initial blow and the initial strike by just stepping back, and then a lot of that energy just rushes by us. You know, it's like if we get into a bike accident and instead of bracing ourselves, we just roll and we stand up and we brush ourselves off as opposed to like putting our arms out and breaking our arms, you know? So there's we don't have to tussle with it so hard. We can let it diffuse its own energy by our way of being and stepping back. And that's a big part of adversity is just stepping back. Because what's in the word adversity? Adversary. Sounds a lot like adversary. So it's an opponent coming at you. So how do I want to face my opponent? And in the art of war, they don't talk about how to throw a punch or how to build a bomb. They don't talk about anything like that. It's all about how you work with your mind. And that's how we deal with adversity if we don't want to perpetuate violence, is we step back. Full circle, guys, coming back to that mental space. I love that. And thanks for taking a step back because, well, I don't want to think about that alternative. And I don't know about you guys, but when he said Mike Tyson punching a 15-year-old, all I could think about was that video of Mike Tyson biting on Hezbollah. Did you guys see that video? He like so if you guys aren't familiar, Hezbollah is like this like 22-year-old, and he's like a little guy. And like Mike Tyson, like he goes up to Mike Tyson in his video, he's like trying to punch him, and Mike Tyson's like biting him like a kid, like just playing around with him. And then afterwards, someone's like, "Did you know that that's actually a grown man?" And he's like, "No, I thought it was a kid." So I just had that playing in my mind, speaking of the mental space. Oh man, good stuff. Powerful share, brother. Whew. What else? Anything showing up for anybody in those shares?
I think we're we're lightly touching upon it, if I can just reword it in my own way. I
Please.
think it's very important, and I hear a lot of people talking about it. Um, First of all, adversity, we like to sometimes dramatize things and make them bigger than they are. I mean, sometimes even just small obstacles like waking up in the morning or having to shower or make breakfast, the little things, like ultimately anything be- that we let become an obstacle in our lives, or not even that we let it, but just sometimes we really are just struggling and it's hard to show up as the best version of ourselves. So we struggle with the littlest things, like ultimately that becomes adversity. And I say that to touch upon the fact that the way we show up in our adversity, how we react to our adversity, not only has a tremendous influence on the people around us because they see, you know, us as role models, whether we think it or not, like we do have that power to influence people just by our demeanor, our overall way of being. And then even when no one's looking, you know, that ultimately determines our character and our identity, how we show up, because it's one thing to show off when we have an audience, and then it's a whole other thing when it's just you. You can only be as honest with yourself as you choose to let yourself be. And so if you cut corners on your own, and especially in those moments of adversity, if you try to just cheat around certain things, you're only letting yourself down. It's only creating almost like a lower self-esteem because I feel like that's where your confidence comes from, is
I
how
love
you
this.
face those things.
Hmm.
I would love to touch on this. Do you feel complete, Ken?
Yes, yes.
Awesome. I choose to add to that. Um, the word sincerity is coming up for me. I think it's so vital to be sincere with ourselves and honest with ourselves because it's so fucking easy just to bullshit ourselves. Um, Even if like there's adversity and shit, you can be like, that shit doesn't bug me. I don't blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, when you hit your head on the pillow, you know like what the truth is. So that's all I really want to add to this conversation. Sincerity is the word that comes up for me.
Hmm. Yeah, that honesty. And Ken, I love what you're saying too. It's like, what are you doing in private and what are you doing in person, with in front of people? And I think that building that character, those reps on your own, that really helps us build our leadership because character is a huge part of leadership. We have to have a strong character and strong in our convictions. And to Aaron, to your point, like I don't know if we can really get to true leadership without being honest with ourselves, sincere, whatever word you want to use. Like I don't that's part of what's in this world right now that really needs to change is like leadership. It's very helpful for people to be honest and transparent um, in their dealings with things. So that's really great. Um,
In addition to that, we use words like honesty and sincerity. I think I've noticed in my life that being genuine, I know that that's basically synonymous to those words, but like you meet very few people in your life. Like you think of the people that you've interacted with, especially like middle school, high school, because I feel like that's really when it like peaks. Like people are so fake, so full of shit, just all full of themselves, and they'll say whatever, do whatever, you know, to just get attention and be cool with people. But like to really meet somebody that you could tell, like, oh, this person, this man, woman, young adult, whatever, is real. Like who they are now is who they are all the time, no matter what, whether we're partying, whether we're business, whether we're chilling, whatever. Like that's just who they are. And people gravitate to those people because you know what you're getting. You're not left wondering like, oh, how are they going to show up today? Are they going to be pissed at me? Are they going to be, you know, happy, chipper, in a good mood, or what am I going to get? And there's so many people that are so unpredictable that you just get tired of. It's draining. It's draining to not know what you're going to get from people, especially if they're going to take more than they had.
mm, Comes back to those boundaries, brother. I love that. You guys, this has been a really great conversation, and I'm really happy that we were able to hold it down without King Carlos. It's great to see you guys showing up. And the last thing I'd like to cover with our time together today, just I wanted to hear everybody's thoughts on saying no and how it pertains to leadership.
I think Aaron's frozen. I'll take him out. I'm saying no.
Yeah, he
Within
tells you
leadership.
what you're not for. Can you guys hear me?
Sorry, Diego. You were frozen. Say that again, Aaron.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Was I frozen? Did you hear
Yeah,
any of what
yeah.
I
And
just
then,
said?
anyways, it cut off. Even though you're in Arizona, bro, you were frozen.
Lovely. Can you hear me again?
Yeah, yeah. What are your thoughts on saying no? And then Diego, we'll get
Sure.
to you.
Yeah. So it's incredibly powerful if you can get another person to say no, because it can help them to feel safe. So one of the questions I like to ask is, are you totally opposed to XYZ? Just let them say no.
Hmm.
Because if you say, do you want to something or other else, it's almost like you're almost like they, not you're implying, but they could feel pressured to say yes because they don't want to make you feel bad or they don't want to feel bad themselves. So, at least for me personally, I like asking sometimes, are you opposed to, or something like that, or do you feel comfortable? But in regards to me saying no on my own, or but yeah, like that, it's really easy sometimes to spread yourself thin as a leader if you're just saying yes, 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 yes to everything. When you can learn to say no, honestly, more than you can say yes, and the higher up you go, the more opportunities you got to say no to. It's important to know what you value, so that you can know what to say no to, because everything is an opportunity cost.
Hmm. Love that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I think I would touch on like opportunity cost as well. I like that word. Comes up for me a lot. But yeah, I think high producers in any industry, whether you're real estate or cars or mechanic or dance, who knows? I think people that are producing have structure to their lives, their businesses, intentional with their actions in their day, use calendars type stuff. So stuff that does not align with people's morals or values, whether it's more than a few drinks on the weekend or I don't even know, like maybe driving around the city with a picky client that doesn't want to choose a home. I don't know. Like sometimes you have to tell people, look, like I'm here to provide a service. I'm here to help people. And if you're not going to get with the program, like I don't know what to tell you. I have time to serve people the best I can. And if you're not with the program, like maybe it's not the right fit for you. Maybe you need another service, another provider, or it's we come back later, you know? I think it's important to just it always again, as we've mentioned a few times, full circle, just back to boundaries, back to understanding your mission, your purpose, your I don't know, your goals, and how other people fit into that. And yeah, yeah, that's about all I got.
Thanks for sharing, Diego. Great shares, guys. Great gems from both of you today. Thanks so much. Ken, Sean?
One of the best pieces of advice I feel I've ever heard is whenever you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And if you really let that sink in, especially for me, I'm the type of person that I really like being there. I really like showing up for people because I know how it's felt personally in my life or to not have people show up for me. And so, I always want to say yes. I always want to contribute. I always want to be able to provide. And I think as men, that's something that we aspire to. And as great as that is, we need to realize that there are limitations. There is only so much that we can do. There are only 24 hours in a day, and we can't do every single thing. And
Mm,
so, as great as it is to show up for, people in general, I've found that sometimes you lose sight of the people that really matter, your family, your partner, your friends. the people that depend on you, your mentees, for example. And especially if you get, I struggle sometimes with time organization. And if you get disorganized with your time, you get stretched left and right, you go every which way, and you come to realize, oh, I don't got this. And so it's just the power of learning to say no really gives you that organization for you to say, okay, what really matters? What am I going to get done today? Because if we look at each day just as that period of time of 24 hours, it matters what we're getting done in that period of time. Otherwise, I found in my life that if we look at like periods of time, like weeks and months, you start to let things slip and then nothing gets done.
Hmm. Hmm.
Powerful.
Great share, man. Thank you so much, Ken. Sean? Yeah, and it's been in my experience that we really don't know what our yes is until we really know what our no is. And I'm with you, Ken. I really like showing up for people. I know I can resonate with everything that you said. It's really, really important. And also it's like it's not our job to solve everything. A few things will do. Literally a few things are fine. And if we can do a little bit more than that, then that's absolutely fantastic. But like if we're gonna try and eat an elephant, how would we do it? We do it one bite at a time. If I try and swallow it, it's gonna crush me. And that's how I like to look at saying no. When I'm saying no to something, I'm setting a boundary. And then on the flip side of what you said, Ken, is I'm able to find something that I really want to say yes to. Sometimes we do say yes and we really mean no. So ultimately, we're actually still saying no, even though we said yes. So it's like we're living almost in like a parallel reality at that point. And I think that these threads actually can weigh on us depending on what avenues we decided to take. So it's hard because we do want to help people, but like really kind of staying in a firm, defined boundary of like a spiral of our own will help us say no to the second best so we can really get to our best. And we're going to have to go through a lot of no's in order to get a yes. But quite frankly, I'd rather get a lot of no's because then that way I really have to start learning and cultivating my skills. And then I'll learn how to get those yeses that I really am looking for more so. So, I mean, it's 50% of the equation if we're looking at yes and no. It's 50 yes and 50 no. It's 50% of the equation, literally. I mean, that's a big component of choices that we can make. So a no is even more powerful to me than a yes, because now I either have to dig deeper or I know that I'm not going to be spending time where I shouldn't be anyways. Hmm. Thanks for sharing, Sean. Well, to cap it off, what I have to say about saying no is that I say no to the rest to say yes to my best. And also, no is interesting because it has a double meaning, N-O and also K-N-O-W. So I say no because I know, you know? So that's a little wordplay. Guys, this has been a great call. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing your thoughts, feelings, and actions. This has been great, guys. And just as a reminder, we have our mastermind on Sunday, which is 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern, and also 3 p.m. Pacific. Hope to see you all there. And in the meantime, again, thank you guys so much for showing up and making this a great call.